Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 26 November 2015. It's Thanksgiving Day and I am thankful for a lot of things. But it's kind of an odd Thanksgiving Day for me because we had our family Thanksgiving last Saturday. And Emma, our daughter, had major back surgery for scoliosis on Monday. And she and Heidi are still down in Indianapolis at Riley Hospital recovering. They'll be home sometime tomorrow. So I've been knocking around the house. Actually, I've been chained to the sharpening bench all day. Not that I'm not thankful, because I am, to the God who provides all things, but I've been sharpening and getting cranky. Guess what we're going to talk about today? It is a knife rant. We'll call it Ricassos and Choils. Okay, you see 6 knives in front of the camera, and 4 of these knives understand what a choil is, or a sharpening notch. Actually, their makers understand, and 2 of them are my poster children for one of the things that is horribly wrong in the modern folder market as of fall 2015. Okay, let's move these out of the way one by one. And we'll have a little knife history lesson first. Okay, this is one of my beloved Great Eastern cutlery knives, the 2015 Spear Point edition of the Washington Jack. And you can see, as we come in close, at the base of my blade, there is a little notch. There you go. Between the ricasso, which is this flat, unsharpened area between where the handle ends and the bevel grind, the sharpened area of the knife begins. There's a notch. You could call that a sharpening notch. You could call it a choil. I guess sharpening notch would be the most descriptive term in this case. What that does, it gives you a little relief, so that as you're passing your sharpening stone over the knife, you can tuck it up against that shoulder of the plunge grind and be able to sharpen that edge fully, consistently, all the way to the base, as I think you'll be able to see on my Washington Jack, if I can get it out of the shadow. There we go. Maybe it'll show you better on this side. Yeah, there you go. Nice straight, sharpened edge, sharp all the way to the back. They did that to make resharpening easy, and then on these old traditional pocket knives, as you sharpen the blade, you can, get in there with a little file, or use the edge of a belt sander to enhance that notch to give you some clearance for future sharpenings. Some of these knives even need it when they're new. So that's a feature that is advantageous for future sharpening. And it carries over into modern folders. There's a couple different approaches to doing that. Here would be the Chris Reeve Saban. You see there's really no ricasso per se on this knife, but the choil comes from underneath the handle, and this is a great view. You can see where the plunge grind ends. That would be this sort of bright line. Then you've got flat grind from here out to where the cutting edge starts. Easy to get a Saban sharp all the way to the base. Look at my nice straight edge grind. No funkiness. And we've covered this before, but if that edge thickness flares at the back and your stone has to ride into the blade at an angle instead of flat, well, the far side of the stone, like where my pinky is going to dig, and you're going to end up with a swale, which could correspond to a recurve. It plays heck getting that last inch of the blade consistently sharp. Great design. And now let's look at a knife that, from a maker who frankly gets it wrong more than they get it right. This is a zero tolerance knife, the 0808. Again, you see very little ricasso, if any, but you have a choil in front of the flipper that extends past the plunge grind. The plunge grind, remember guys, is where the profile of the bevel is swooping in from its full thickness. And you know, some knives do that on a radius, like this knife, or like the Saban. Some knives, it's just a hard 90-degree plunge, like most traditional pocket knives. But if you look at the 808, it's close. It's right in the hairy edge, and this is sharpened pretty skinny, I think 15 degrees per side. You can see I was able to get nice, clean, straight cutting edge all the way to the bottom. So that's another good example of how that should look, how that should be executed. So you have full stock thickness at the flipper, and then just at the edge of the frame that plunge starts, and it comes down to the bevel. The choil is designed to make that transition and give you room for your sharpening stone to work. That's why that little notch or choil is there. That's why it exists. Now some makers, like Hinder or Triple Aught Design, decide to make really big choils. In this case, you can see a very long ricasso area, this unsharpened area in front of the handle, and they use the choil, which primarily is there for sharpening, to give you a forward grip for your index finger. You guys know, if you watch this channel, there are a lot of knives that get this feature, this detail wrong, that I cut aftermarket finger choils in, sort of to kill two birds with one stone. Especially knives that really benefit from that forward grip. But again, you can see how the plunge grind stops before the cutting edge. And you know, it's pretty close on the Dauntless, but it gets it done. Nicely done. So that brings us to our topic for ranting discussion. I'm going to pick on one maker that I've picked on a lot about this because he does it wrong so often. In fact, while we're picking on him, I'm going to grab another one of his knives for comparison. Talk amongst yourselves while I'm digging through the stash. Okay. First, we're going to talk about young Mr. Browse. This is his VR71. Well, we have a flipper. We have a big gradual swoopy plunge grind. And we have a factory choil that, as you can see, extends well past the plunge grind, giving us the capability to have nice, beautiful, straight, clean, sharp edge all the way to the back, and it actually accommodates a finger. When did this knife come out? 2014, I think. A few months after I actually had an opportunity to speak with Jason about this issue. I was pleased to see this design come out with it taken care of. However, so we know he understands it. His early designs didn't get this right. Divisions, the T4 didn't get it right. I've modded a couple of those, talked to them about it. Then the VR71 comes out, he gets it right. Well, then we've had 3 versions of Bionics. This one being the Bionic XL, exclusive to Knives Ship Free, review to follow. But let's just take a look. We have a flipper design. We have a choil. And then looky here, boys and girls. What on earth is that. Okay, we got a plunge grind that extends to about here. We have a choil that stops here, and we have a big, fat, unsightly chunk of metal that's sharpened at about 60 degrees inclusive to make it look decent. At least it does on that side. On this side, it looks ridiculous. And you know, it's not really sharp. You know, it comes to a point, but you know, a 90-degree angle can come to a point. And I'm here to tell you, when you try to resharpen this, it's going to look worse unless you get very creative. You can, and there is a video, a couple months old, by Randy Johnson, Solo's Knife Reviews on YouTube, where he explains how freehand sharpening can overcome this a little more easily than a fixed angle system can. But basically what you're going to do is, let's see if I can show you this. You're going to sharpen that first 1/4 inch at a real steep angle, usually with the knife sort of hanging down off the edge of the stone, and then as you come into the main cutting edge, you're going to make a very skilled movement, changing your angle, coming into your primary cutting edge, which, you know, that's great, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's great. But, you know, you look at a knife like this, and believe me, guys, if I sharpen this knife right now, and I do it at a not super skinny angle, like 17 or 18 degrees per side, what you're going to see is that visible secondary bevel, the not black part, you're going to see it, you know, double in width. I'm going to be running into this shoulder. It's going to look horrible. Or I'm going to, as I've done on Bionics before, gone in and ground off this heel. The black coated ones, it really looks stupid if you grind a forward finger choil on them, because then you got shiny metal where it should be black, and so you really have to get creative. It almost, you look at a knife like this and you go, okay, what did the designer think this choil was for? I mean, why didn't the flipper just come straight to where the cutting edge started? It wouldn't have sharpened any worse. So why bother to program your CNC to put that choil in there when it does absolutely nothing? I mean, nothing. It serves no functional purpose. It's like the designer of the knife looked at a picture of a knife and went, okay, there's supposed to be a radius there or a choil there. I better put one in my knife. I have no idea why, but since knives have that, I'll just put one in. But wouldn't you think, you know, after you've run a couple thousand knives, it would start to dawn on you that the guy at the belt sander's having to radically alter his angle as he gets to the heel, and they still look horrible. And guys that try to sharpen them end up with Bionics they just want to throw away because they look so horrible at the base. I mean, golly. So you're either going to sharpen this and, you know, grind it way up high on the blade to have straight cutting edge, or you're going to just sort of let your stone follow the knife, and you're going to end up with a big recurve here. This point's going to start dropping down farther, and it's going to be super hard to get sharp right here. I don't know. It's not like Jason Browse doesn't know this. Trust me, he knows. Does he care? Apparently not. Review to follow, by the way. And in the review, I'm not going to talk about that because it gets a lot of things right. Then I was just kind of lining up my day for tomorrow, and my customer, Scott, who I have like 20 of his knives, sent me this. It is the Southard Low Production, he calls them, Performance Series, the Tolk, T-O-L-K. And again, got the same thing. We have a flipper with a choil Kind of a big choil, don't you think? Big old swoopy plunge grind. It ends just behind that green Sharpie mark. It's a $495 knife, my friends. And you can see even the factory sharpening, it started to flare. So they kind of stopped, cut it off. You know, the choil just needs to be like, well, it could probably get away with being 1/8 of an inch longer to clear the plunge grind. But if it's this big already, it's still too small for a finger. But if it's big like that, it's not petite. It's not unobtrusive. It's a big honking choil. Why not just make it 1/4 inch longer out to that green mark and have yourself a nice forward finger choil? Let's face it, that back 1/4 inch of cutting edge isn't going to do anything anyway. Look where the thumb stud is. If you're slicing with it, do you want to be digging cheese bits out of your thumb stud? I don't think so. Great knife, by the way. Stay tuned for this review. Both of these are such darn good knives for what they are in so many ways. This one feature just it just makes me wonder. Both these young guys are super nice, and they're the future of knife making, both of them. So I hope this helps. And I realize the market's the market. Let's face it. We figure 90% of the people who buy a Southard Tolk are rarely going to use it, never going to sharpen it. They don't care. They know it's a ball bearing flipper with custom features, and it's a semi-custom knife they can buy for under $500. It's got CTS XHP steel. They're going to buy it. They're going to carry it. They're going to show their buddies. They're going to flip it. Probably never sharpen it. They don't care. But for those of us who actually appreciate the most important part of a knife, which is its cutting edge, and we use it, and we appreciate sharpness and sharpenability, a knife is a perishable tool. It is this blade is designed to be used, and it goes away by sharpening. Again, I gotta ask, Brad, what did you think that choil was for? It's for one of two or both things. It is to provide access for sharpening or a forward grip for your index finger. If you had neither one of those uses in mind, why did you put it in there in the first place? Because it does neither. I mean, I understand knives don't have that at all. Most Spydercos have a 90-degree plunge like this traditional pocket knife, and you just have to use a well-flattened, sharp-cornered stone and get in against that shoulder and make it sharp all the way to the back, because they don't at the factory. But I can deal with that. It takes a few strokes to fix. You know, something like this, if you don't do something about extending this choil, or you sharpen it freehand and make a radical angle adjustment at the base, you're just going to have an ugly knife. A $500 ugly knife. Please, 21st century knife makers, understand what choils are for and execute them properly. Thank you. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the word is sharp.